You know, at Dennis Kirk, we love building motorcycles. In fact, we've given away a custom motorcycle the last 3 years, built by some of the best in the industry. You have Chris Callan of Cycle Source Magazine, Paul Yaffe of Paul Yaffe's Originals, and Donnie Smith of Donnie Smith Custom Cycles. All have built us some amazing machines that we've given away to some happy customers. This year, we wanted to try something a little different. Instead of restoring a motorcycle to period correctness or giving it a custom flavor, we wanted to see if we could get a builder to build something from completely scratch. And we found just the right builder, someone to make us something antique and unique using nothing but parts you'll find in the Dennis Kirk catalog. So we're here today at Lakeville North High School in Minnesota to introduce you to their shop teacher and the man who's going to lead the charge. Let's go check it out. Making our way across the shop class, and I'm here with Kevin, Teach Baas. Kevin, how you doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So if you're not familiar with Kevin, he is the master of shop class, metal class, chopper class here at Lakeville North High School in Minnesota, and we're standing in your realm.
It's my happy place. I appreciate you guys being here. I'm excited for the project. A lot of cool things going on, and it's gonna be a fun adventure.
We appreciate you working with us. So if you're not familiar with Kevin, like I said, Kevin is well known for not only putting on one amazing chopper class and teaching kids how to build motorcycles, but he's also known for his antique efforts, and it's why we thought he'd be the perfect person to tap to build a bike from scratch. Kevin, we got a bunch of boxes here. Why don't you tell me what we're looking at?
This is kind of a collection of everything that when I met with you guys to talk about my vision for a build, do something different, like you said, vintage style. I thought, well, let's go back to the roots, all the way to Knucklehead, So I basically started with a replica 41 to 46 frame, Knucklehead frame, and it's gonna give us a nice rigid, old school look. We're gonna be running a 16-inch rear with a 21-inch front, Springer front end, replica original style Springer front end. We got a Baker kickstart 6 and a 4 actually, so it's an old style tranny with the new Baker technology, which is awesome. This will be great in there. And then obviously for the power plant, if you're gonna build a Knucklehead kind of a looking bike, you better have a Knucklehead, right?
Yeah.
Well, we got S&S, one of S&S's Knucklehead motors are put in this thing. So right now we have the foundation for something cool. Where's it gonna go? I have 100 ideas. It's about what the kids and I decide to go with which path. So this is exciting times because I'm going to be getting the kids together to open up all these boxes. We're gonna press in the neck cups, show them how to do that, and then install the front end. Show them how to do the drum brakes on these old wheels, get those lined up, put everything with the star hubs, and get the oil tank mounted, an old style horseshoe oil tank, tranny in, motor in, and get kind of a rolling chassis. And then that's when the real creative juices get going. Once you can see the bike on the ground on its own wheels and tires, now you start telling yourself, what would look good? What kind of a tank would look good? What kind of bars? Do we want a sissy bar? Do we want a stock fender? Do we want a bob fender? Do we want a little cool rib fender? And there's so many different options we can go with this thing. So it's exciting for me because I've built a lot of these bikes and I've built them in all different styles. So no matter what the kids decide on and we figured out what we want to do, I've done it and I know what it's going to look like and it's going to be cool. So the bottom line is this is one that you're not going to want to miss out on because it's going to be so different from what everybody else has done. And it's going to be what, right now the old bike style is so cool. Like everybody's into it. Everywhere you go, people want an old knuckle or a pan or a shovel. So this is going to fit right in with that too. And then having all this new technology, so you can have a cool old looking bike that is just got all new technology you can pound, and it's going to be very reliable and it's going to be fun and fast.
So beyond just Kevin's knowledge with antique motorcycles and being a professional builder, one of the big things about this program that we love is the fact that we're teaching children to build motorcycles from scratch, to maintain the things that they do, to work with their hands, and to create something amazing. So how much involvement are these kids going to have in the design and fabrication efforts on this motorcycle?
And that's the fun part. I mean, even just hearing you say that, the kids are going to help build, like how neat is that? It gives me goosebumps. They're going to be a part of this the whole way, they're going to be right next to me. We're going to be a team. So yeah, I have my ways, my visions, but I still want to have them have input. And we'll sit together as a group and we'll sketch out things. Say, hey, what do you guys think for a gas tank? We might spend 2 days sketching different ideas, putting some mock-ups on it, see what we think before we decide what we really want to do. And that's what's fun is these kids are learning a cool trade of hey, I can actually build something from scratch. I can fabricate stuff as needed, and I can build a bike that's going to go on a nationwide circuit and be going with Dennis Kirk to Sturgis. How cool is that? And it's giving these kids that lifelong passion for what the bikes are about. To me, it's in your blood. Once it gets in your blood, it's hard to kick it. When you've built a bike from scratch, your first one, you see it start up for the first time, you know, the excitement of that first, high-fiving, and that we did it, it runs, and then take it for a drive, and seeing it in action, and debugging it, and doing all the little things. And then finally, you know, the end result's going to be awesome is when it goes to Sturgis and, you know, you do the raffle. Can't wait to see who wins it and their reaction, you know, how cool it's going to be. And to be able to just talk with them and tell them about everything we did do, you know, and the little things. And so for me, with the kids, they're going to be 100% right with me on this, and it's going to be a Lakeville North Chopper class build that we're going to always remember.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, one thing I do imagine that's got to be unique in this situation is, you know, this stuff at the end of the day, it's not cheap. We know it's successful for any garage builder to do, but it does take an investment. So what are things in this particular build that you're most excited to show your kids? Because maybe normally we couldn't afford to grab that part and build that thing or what have you.
Well, you know, they've seen my original knuckleheads, you know, the old crusty ones. So I'm really excited that we have an S&S knuckle. I mean, that's state of the art. It's a 90, I think, 3-inch, you know, so it's going to be a lot of power for this little bike. And then also with Baker Drivetrain, again, they're doing the same stuff where they're taking the old style, you know, 4-speed trannies and they're making them better. In this case, 6 and a 4, you know, which back in the old days, you didn't have that, you know.
Right.
So with that big motor and that tranny with 6 and a 4 and this light little bike, this thing is going to be a screamer. It's going to be so cool.
Let's talk about the build in terms of cost for a second, because we are after something pretty vintage. And you said the word replica a lot, which is true. Yeah. We're using replica parts because at the end of the day, the cost in some of these things for how old they might be is astronomical to some extent. How much do you think it would cost to build a knuckle from scratch?
A real one?
A real one.
Well, I'm doing one right now, and you know, you're going to have at least 15 grand into them.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, if you get it fully rebuilt, title and all that. Well, but then if you were going to sell it or somebody was going to buy it, well, you got all your time in that too. So you're not picking up a real nice vintage, clean titled, rebuilt knuckle motor for under 30 grand anymore. Wow. You know, it's crazy. So what's nice with the S&S, you know, for half the price, you get, it looks like one, it performs way better than one, and it's going to be able to last the test of time, which, you know, the old ones were always good, but they do have their issues. Things crack and break. With this new technology, it's going to be fun because, you know, people are going to see it and think, wow, look at that old knuckle, and it does a burn on. Like, whoa, where did that come from, you know?
Yeah.
Cool, cool. So it's a good mix, you know, of the new and the old and just showing how technology has evolved, but we can still make that old style look and keep that feel and keep that dream of the vintage bike addiction, you know?
In comparison, for garage builders who might want to attempt a vintage rebuild that is of replica parts, you know, what are we talking, we're looking at all in outside of time and labor?
Well, with this one, if I was buying these parts personally to build this bike, you're going to probably have, I don't know, 20 grand into it maybe, 15, 20 grand, depending on some of the components. You know, things get more expensive and less. And then you got to think about what kind of paint job, because your painters, that's a different thing. Are you going to get anything chrome plated and that kind of stuff? But just basic buying the parts, you know, 15, 20 grand, you probably get close, and then you just got to kind of see what kind of budget you have after that to move on.
Sure, and I imagine since we're using a lot of, like you're saying, newer technology to some components, that obviously brings the price up a little bit more when it comes to replica parts. So,
yeah, you can get an Evo style motor for, you know, I don't know, probably 4 or 5, 6 grand. Compared to an S&S knuckle, which is the creme de la creme, it's going to be, you know, 12 grand or something for the motor. And that's where a builder can they can tailor their budget. You know, they can still build an old school looking bike, but use a little bit newer motor. There's no shame in that anymore, you know. Yeah. It's all about what the builder can afford, what they want for their bike. I mean, everybody's bike's different, you know. What you ride might not be my style, but who am I to say it's wrong? It's not, you know, because it's right to you. And what I build, you might not like something, but it's right to me. And every builder, that's what's great about it. They're individualized. They build the bike for them. And if somebody else thinks it's wrong or has something to say, it's like, no, please. You know, we're not going there, because this is all about the passion for the guy riding it and building it and the love they put into it. And there's no wrong answer in my mind.
Oh, this is going to be one awesome machine. You know, looking at a timeline, like in terms of like your program and how this fits into your curriculum, you know, how long does it take to put together a bike like this under the constraints of, you know, an hour-long class?
It'll take us till spring probably, you know, because obviously I don't want to come in and do it on my own with them not being here. We're going to have 50-minute windows to work on it, which isn't a lot of time. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to, you know, as a teacher, you know, I write curriculum, I organize day-by-day plans. I'm going to just figure out certain days and what our goal is. Our objective this day is to get this done. So honestly, the first thing my kids are going to learn from me when we start tearing these box apart is how to install neck cups, you know, because a new frame like this doesn't have the neck cups in. So I went on the lathe and I machined some little spacers, so I'll be able to put it in there and then we'll screw the neck cups and they'll pull them in tight.
Yeah, okay.
And think about how many people have never even thought about a neck cup because they just buy a bike or have a bike with them already in. Well, now these kids are going to be able to look at neck cups and go, oh, I know how to install those.
Sure.
I know what to do. So once we get the neck cups in, then we can get the bearings in, get the front end mounted, so they'll learn how to put the front end on and properly get everything torqued, make sure you're not binding and it's not too loose. Then we're going to put our wheels. We got the Star Hub style wheels. I'll show them how to put the drum brake assemblies on those, get those on, mount the tires. We have a tire machine, so we'll mount our tires and get this thing into a roller where it's actually on its own wheels. You can set on the ground. Figure out what bars we want, look at seat options, gas tank options, fender options, and then that's when it's like, it goes crazy because there's so many different, there's a million different paths you can take with this thing. But what I really like is to build them up to that rolling chassis. When you see it and you put it on the ground on its kickstand, you can just stand back and look at it. Now it's like, wow, you know what? That would look cool with a big sissy bar.
Speaking to you.
Yeah, it does. It does. They kind of tell you what they want, or that would look good with some drag bars, or no, that wouldn't be good with ape hangers. You know? It's going to tell a story. So this bike is going to evolve and change a lot. I wouldn't be able to tell you right now exactly what it's going to look like in the finished product, and that's what's fun about it. You know, it's going to change as we get going on it, and that's going to make it that much more fun. You know, it's not like, oh, here's what you got to do, boom, 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 done, bike's done. No, it's going to be all about engineering design. Like, hey kids, why don't you guys draw up and CNC plasma cut a side mount tail light or a seat pan or whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to really incorporate them, so they're not just taking new parts and bolting together. They're going to have fabrication involved with it.
Okay.
They're going to learn about all the ins and outs. You know, even just teaching them little things about like different thread styles and tap and dies, and showing them not to cross thread stuff. And if you have one that's bad, how do you chase it with a tap? And all the different machines that are involved with this. It's gonna be one of them projects that they're going to take away more than just, oh, I built a bike. They're going to take away a whole experience, a whole adventure of just knowledge that they didn't have before we started.
I think what's pretty unique about the time crunch that these kids are on is, the importance to, being open and being creative, but also like once measuring twice and going, and knowing the objective for that day, because at the end of the day, a garage builder only gets maybe 15 minutes a night if they've got a family and they've got all that to go out and execute on something to move the bike forward. So I think that's pretty unique that these kids get to learn that at a young age. But, talking about accessibility for something like this for a garage builder, like you said, there's going to be some fabrication, some metal work. There's going to be not necessarily advanced methods, but some things that, you probably aren't going to get a handle on until you trial and error a few times. How accessible is a build like this, a replication like this, to someone who is at least a bit mechanically savvy? If
you got a little bit, you've got some tools, you got a little knowledge set. If you've ridden bikes before, you kind of understand them. It's not hard at all. I mean, a garage builder could buy this stuff, and like I said, it doesn't have to be built in a week. Take your time. Some guys, and that's how I was. I still am. If I want to build my next bike, I save up. I buy the one part.
Yeah.
Sits in my garage. I look at it and I envision what else do I want. Save up. Now I can buy the next part. All right, now save up. Buy the next part, which is cool. And it just allows the bike to take shape without being rushed. Because if you rush the build, you do things that maybe you didn't want to necessarily do, and it doesn't turn out exactly like you wanted, and you're kind of kicking yourself. Where I always tell my kids, take your time, do it right the first time, so you've got to redo it.
Sure.
So for a garage builder, this is totally, if they got a set of tools and know a little bit about bikes, they go on Dennis Kirk and build a bike like this in, a couple months. Really, they put their mind to it. But it's all, again, it's dependent on, how much creativity and craziness do you want to go. We're going to try to build a bunch of stuff to put on it so it really gives our personal touch. If we would just assemble it with all the parts and not make anything, just use all bolt-on parts, that would take probably a month or two off the build plate.
Sure.
But we're going to do it our way, and but not to ever scare anybody off, because I'll tell you what, I know if my students can do it, anybody out there that's got tools can do it.
That's fair. Now, we're chasing an era that's near and dear to your heart, and I know that there's not a lot of the vision that comes to life until we get going, but is there any particular thing that you can think of that you're like, I'm really excited to teach my students about this thing?
Yeah, I'm going to grab a box cutter here. This here is kind of cool because, I'm going to have actual real original Knucklehead in here to show them as a kind of a showpiece. And then to compare that, whoa. We're going to have this beautiful This is where it's like, oh, the genie in the bottle coming out. Look at this. How pretty is that?
Oh, wow.
I mean, we're talking a motor that looks like it's from the 40s, but it was built, this year.
It's beautiful.
This is what they call the Knucklehead motor. And the reason why they call it Knucklehead motor, if you see the rocker boxes here, they kind of have that kind of like a fist, kind of a knuckle look to them. So that's where they got the Knucklehead name. You know, pan heads kind of look like a dish pan upside down. Shovel heads look like the butt of a shovel. But the Knuckleheads, to me, these always were my favorite style. I think they have the neatest look. They're obviously vintage. You know, in 1936 when they came out with the first Knucklehead overhead valve, it was ahead of their time, and it's one of the most popular old bikes out there nowadays.
How many years did Harley produce Knuckleheads?
Knuckleheads are 1936 all the way up to 1947.
Okay, so a little over 10 years. What led to moving away?
Well, you know, with every company, they always want to evolve, get better, so they realized they wanted to use aluminum heads for better cooling instead of these cast iron heads. And the pan head was their new platform to show off all that stuff. And they just evolved from there. But I think the biggest thing with the Knuckleheads is the cast iron heads was something that they wanted to eliminate, get better heat dissipation.
Sure.
And these, if you have cracked cast iron heads, they're really hard to get repaired. You got to really know what you're doing, or they're pretty much boat anchors. But this motor here, I have one in my Zeus bike. Excuse me. And that thing, 2018 we built Zeus and put it in the Lichter show in Sturgis, and I've ridden the snot out of that bike. I've had it all over the country and put it through the test, and that thing is still rock solid. They're a good solid motor. S&S is a very good company. Somebody that you want to always put your faith in that they're going to give you a good product, and they're there to stand behind it. The other real cool thing we talked about was this transmission.
Yeah.
So this, again, like we talked about with the S&S motor, this is a replica of an old four-speed style tranny, short shaft style tranny. But now it's got all the brand new, everything that Baker Transmission is known for, the reliability, the quality components. All right, so what we're looking at here is an old style 4-speed transmission, but now you got 6 and a 4, so you got 6-speed in a 4-speed case. A stock Harley tranny would have stopped here. Kicker cover would have been right there. This one's got all the extra stuff they did to mastermind and create just a piece of art that's going to be functional and can take a beating. These transmissions, the same thing. I got one of these in Zeus as well. So I got the same combo, S&S Knuck, Baker tranny. The one in Zeus is just a 4-speed though, but I'm from honest guy to guy talk. I beat the snot out of that bike, and it's held up great. So these things are quality, made in America. It's what you want. And to be able to choose these components and have Dennis Kirk agree with it and want to back me on it and support these companies, it's a dream come true. It's pretty exciting.
Well, Kevin, we're extremely excited to have you on this build. Y'all need to pay attention over the next few months because we'll be dropping updates throughout the year, the rest of 24 into 25 as this build is happening. So you're gonna get regular updates seeing it happen. Pay attention to all of our social medias, sign up for our email list, and pay attention to our blog because you'll get more information as this is getting built. And we'll be looking to drop the contest sometime in the early spring so that everyone can start entering, looking to win what's gonna be one amazing bike. Kevin, man, appreciate your time, and we're really excited.
I'm excited now that the cat's out of the bag. My social media, check out Kevin Teach Baas. I'm going to be posting pictures, tagging these guys, getting a lot of stuff when you're here to film. I want to make sure I capture the whole build. All the smiles of the kids, that's the exciting thing. When you see the kids standing around and they're smiling ear to ear and they're proud as heck, that's what's going to really be my happiness of this build.
Pay attention. We'll be coming back with lots more.